Okay. Hello, my name is Jonathan Braunschweiler. We are Group 8, and we are discussing on what operating system the university should have as default to teach computer science. I'm going to be talking about Mac operating system. There's a few benefits for Mac operating systems. One, it's the security is really secure. It's a Unix core based system, which it's almost impossible to install a destructive Trojan or virus without the admin of the computer typing in their password. It's also really user friendly. It's pleasing to look at, and when you're looking at a screen for 8 hours a day, you might want to be looking at something that's aesthetically pleasing. There's also a terminal app, so you won't have to download like PuTTY in order to uh, go to the BYUI network to do some of the assignments for CS 124 and other assignments. Um, and it's also you can also have Windows on the Mac itself. You can use Boot Camp in order to do that. And those are my points.
Okay. I'm James Meldrum. In our group, I was going to go over Windows 7, and also we have two other group members that were not able to join us. Joshua Tolibas, who was going to go over Linux operating systems, and Corey Taylor, who's going to go over the newer Windows 8 operating systems. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over Windows 7 and see how it matches up and what kind of benefits it has available for us. The best uh, the best thing that I like about the Windows 7 environment, and this is something that's just the way it works with other operating systems as well, is that it doesn't require specific hardware to be able to run, at least not along the same lines as Mac, which you can only use Macintosh items, or or Linux, where there's certain compatibility things, which is much better now than it has been in the past. Windows 7 also is geared for a desktop environment. It allows it has menus that are designed to be clicked on and dragged through, and still has most of the productivity features that are available in newer Windows systems. The Windows 7 environment is also very simple. Has also been very simplified as far as administration is concerned. There's different versions of Windows 7 where you could have client versions and server versions, and be able to manage all of those from one or two terminals uh, instead of having to manage each machine on an individual basis. One of the bigger weaknesses it has is it doesn't have a very intuitive console system. It needs to have certain things installed for the terminal to work, and that weakness is addressable, but not very easily. Um, between both of us that are able to make it to our meeting, um, the choice between Mac and Windows, um, we need to address some of the strengths and weaknesses. For instance, the Mac uh, and their ability to not gain viruses as easily. Uh, Personally, I think that Windows 7, even though it may have more virus attacks, also has the potential to add services that'd be able to remove virus threats. So even though the security of a Mac is there inherently, I believe that even if we do decide to go with Mac, it needs an antivirus anyway, just for security purposes. And if you're going to have to pay for an antivirus anyway, I believe Windows 7 is just as easily protected while still giving those ease of use features I mentioned.
Yeah, that makes sense. I was just saying like Mac security is just probably more useful for like CS 124 students who are just now getting into kind of computer software, and it'd be more safe just in case they accidentally downloaded something like they thought, oh, this is a good program to help me be better at programming, and turns out it had a virus in it. The Mac would help with that, but as you said, like you can get antivirus for the Windows, which would probably just do just as well as the Mac itself would.
Let's see. The next point that I think we would need to cover is software compatibility. Windows has the capacity to run most software out there. Most software is geared towards Windows. Mac has a lot of ways to get around that, either through a boot camp style system or through Mac ports that are available for a lot of major software. My problem with the boot camp solution is that you tend to have to get a more powerful machine, because a lot of the time it just runs it inside of a shell inside the operating system. I'm not quite sure how that works. Do you know, John?
Uh, yeah, you would have to get a more powerful Mac to be able to have it run smoothly. Like it would still run decently, but probably not as smooth as you would want it to be able to program and stuff.
Okay. So based on these two main points I think are important, I would suggest that Windows 7 would provide the strengths we need to be able to provide an easy desktop environment for the new users, as well as give enough control through administration rights that we would be able to have those kinds of um, needs covered by Windows that aren't covered by Mac without having to install Windows on something like the Mac.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Like after you said that, the security, you can just get an antivirus for it, and Boot Camp it will slow down your machine by a lot. And another thing I thought of is Windows. Most Windows computers are a lot cheaper than Macs. Like yeah, you do when you buy a Mac, you do get a reliability, and you know it's going to be decent, but it's going to be expensive. And college students don't really have that much money to get a Mac sometimes.
I agree. Cost is a major decision-making process for the department, which is why Linux is used a lot, is because Linux is open source. Unfortunately, it's not part of our discussion because I didn't research Linux compared to these two things. So that with the decision and the data that we have, I would suggest that we push forward Windows as the operating system for the computer science department.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Windows would probably be the best option.
Okay, thanks a lot for listening to Group 8's decision meeting.